Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So this is the weekly Bible reading video. Now last week was a little bit chaotic, preparing for a winter storm, and I ended up doing last week's reading as a live stream, but I didn't want to separate that out from the rest of the readings. And so today I'm going to be reading a double portion. I'm going to reread what I did in the live stream last week, and then I will read this week's as well. So the first portion that I'm going to be reading is Exodus chapter 10, verse 1 through chapter 13, verse 16. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gives the Torah of truth and the good news of salvation to your people Israel and to all people through your Son, Yeshua the Messiah, Jesus the Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Chapter 10. Yahweh said to Moshe, "Go to Pharaoh, for I have made him and his servants hard-hearted, so that I can demonstrate these signs of mine among them, so that you can tell your son and grandson about what I did to Egypt and about my signs that I demonstrated among them, and so that you will all know that I am Yahweh." Moshe and Aaron went into Pharaoh and said to him, "Here's what Yahweh, God of the Hebrews, says. How much longer will you refuse to submit to me? Let my people go so that they can worship me. Otherwise, if you refuse to let my people go, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your territory. One won't be able to see the ground, so completely will the locusts cover it. They will eat anything you still have that escaped the hail, including every tree you have growing in the field. They will fill your houses and those of your servants and of the Egyptians, all the Egyptians. It will be like nothing your fathers or their fathers have ever seen since the day they were born until today." Then he turned his back and left. Pharaoh's servants said to him, "How much longer must this fellow be a snare for us? Let the people go and worship Yahweh their God. Don't you understand yet that Egypt is being destroyed?" So Moshe and Aaron were brought to Pharaoh again, and he said to them, "Go worship Yahweh your God, but who exactly is going?" Moshe answered, "We will go with our young and our old, our sons and our daughters, and we will go with our flocks and herds, for we must celebrate a feast to Yahweh." Pharaoh said to them, "Yahweh certainly will be with you if I ever let you go with your children. It's clear that you are up to no good. Nothing doing, just the men among you may go and worship Yahweh. That's what you want, isn't it?" And they were driven out of Pharaoh's presence. Yahweh said to Moshe, "Reach out your hand over the land of Egypt, so that locusts will invade the land and eat every plant that the hail has left." Moshe reached out with his staff over the land of Egypt, and Yahweh caused an east wind to blow on the land all day and all night. And in the morning the east wind brought the locusts. The locusts went up all over the land of Egypt and settled throughout Egypt's territory. It was an invasion more severe than there had ever been before or will ever be again. They completely covered the ground so that the ground looked black. They ate every plant growing from the ground and all the fruit of the trees left by the hail. Not one green thing remained, not a tree, not a plant in the field, in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh hurried to summon Moshe and Aaron and said, "I have sinned against Yahweh your God and against you. Now, therefore, please forgive my sin just this once and intercede with Yahweh your God so that he will at least take away from me this deadly plague." He went out from Pharaoh and interceded with Yahweh. Yahweh reversed the wind and made it blow very strongly from the west. It took up the locusts and drove them into the Sea of Suf. Not one locust remained on Egyptian soil. But Yahweh made Pharaoh hard-hearted, and he didn't let the people of Israel go. Yahweh said to Moshe, "Reach out your hand toward the sky, and there will be darkness over the land of Egypt, darkness so thick it can be felt." Moshe reached out his hand toward the sky, and there was a thick darkness in the entire land of Egypt for 3 days. People couldn't see each other, and no one went anywhere for 3 days. But all the people of Israel had light in their homes. Pharaoh summoned Moshe and said, "Go worship Yahweh, only leave your flocks and herds behind. Your children may go with you." Moshe answered, "You must also see to it that we have sacrifices and burnt offerings so that we can sacrifice to Yahweh our God. Our livestock will also go with us. Not a hoof will be left behind, because we must choose some of them to worship Yahweh our God, and we don't know which ones we will need to worship Yahweh until we get there." But Yahweh made Pharaoh hard-hearted, and he would not let them go. Pharaoh said to them, "Get away from me, and you had better not see my face again, because the day you see my face you will die." Moshe answered, "Well spoken. I will see your face no more." Chapter 11. Yahweh said to Moshe, I'm going to bring still one more plague on Pharaoh in Egypt, and after that he will let you leave here. When he does let you go, he will throw you out completely. Now tell the people that every man is to ask his neighbor, and every woman her neighbor, for gold and silver jewelry. Yahweh made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people. Moreover, Moshe was regarded by Pharaoh's servants and the people as a very great man in the land of Egypt. Moshe said, Here is what Yahweh says. About midnight I will go into Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt will die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne, to the firstborn of the slave girl at the handmill, and all the firstborn of the livestock. There will be a horrendous wailing throughout all the land of Egypt. There has never been another like it, and there never will be again. Not even a dog's growl will be heard against any of the people of Israel, neither against the people nor against animals. In this way you will realize that Yahweh distinguishes between Egyptians and Israel. All your servants will come down to me, prostrate themselves before me, and say, Get out, you and all the people who follow you, and after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in the heat of anger. Yahweh said to Moshe, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that still more of my wonders will be shown in the land of Egypt. Moshe and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, but Yahweh had made Pharaoh hard-hearted, and he didn't let the people of Israel leave his land. Chapter 12. Yahweh spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, and he said, You are to begin your calendar with this month. It will be the first month of the year for you. Speak to all the assembly of Israel and say, On the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb or kid for his family, one per household, except that if the household is too small for a whole lamb or kid, then he and his next-door neighbor should share one, dividing it in proportion to the number of people eating it. Your animal must be without defect, a male in its first year, and you may choose it from either the sheep or the goats. You are to keep it until the 14th day of the month, and then the entire assembly of the community of Israel will slaughter it at dusk. They are to take some of the blood and smear it on the two sides and the top of the doorframe at the entrance of the house in which they eat it. That night they are to eat the meat, roasted in the fire. They are to eat it with matzah and maror, bitter herbs. Don't eat it raw or boiled, but roasted in the fire, with its head, lower parts of its leg, and its inner organs. Let nothing of it remain till morning. If any of it does remain, burn it up completely. Here is how you are to eat it, with your belt fastened, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you are to eat it hurriedly. It is Yahweh's Pesach, Passover. For that night I will pass through the land of Egypt and kill all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both men and animals, and I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt. I am Yahweh. The blood will serve you as a sign marking the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I will pass over you. When I strike the land of Egypt, the death blow will not strike you. This will be a day for you to remember and celebrate as a festival to Yahweh. From generation to generation, you are to celebrate it by a perpetual regulation. For 7 days you are to eat matzah. On the first day remove the leaven from your houses. For whoever eats chametz, leavened bread, from the first to the 7th day is to be cut off from Israel. On the 1st and 7th days you are to have an assembly set aside for God. On these days no work is to be done except what each must do to prepare his food. You may do only that. You are to observe the festival of Matzah, for on this very day I brought your divisions out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you are to observe this day from generation to generation by a perpetual regulation. From the evening of the 14th day of the first month until the evening of the 21st day you are to eat matzah. During those 7 days no leaven is to be found in your houses. Whoever eats food with chametz is to be cut off from the community of Israel. It doesn't matter whether he is a foreigner or a citizen of the land. Eat nothing with chametz in it. Wherever you live, eat matzah. Then Moshe called for all the leaders of Israel and said, Select and take lambs for your families and slaughter the Pesach lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop leaves and dip it in the blood which is in the basin, and smear it on the two sides and top of the doorframe. Then none of you is to go out of the house until morning. For Yahweh will pass through to kill the Egyptians, but when he sees the blood on the top and on the two sides, Yahweh will pass over the door and will not allow the slaughterer to enter your houses and kill you. You are to observe this as a law, you and your descendants, forever. When you come to the land which Yahweh will give you, as he has promised, you are to observe this ceremony. When your children ask you, what do you mean by this ceremony? Say, it is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Pesach, because Yahweh spared our houses. The people of Israel bowed their heads and worshipped. Then the people of Israel went and did as Yahweh had ordered Moshe and Aaron. That is what they did. At midnight Yahweh killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne to the firstborn of the prisoner in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. Pharaoh got up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was horrendous wailing in Egypt, for there wasn't a single house without someone dead in it. He summoned Moshe and Aaron by night and said, Up and leave my people, both you and the people of Israel, and go. Serve Yahweh as you said. Take both your flocks and your herds as you said, and get out of here. But bless me too. The Egyptians pressed to send the people out of the land quickly, because they said, Otherwise we'll all be dead. The people took their dough before it had become leavened and wrapped their kneading bowls in their clothes on their shoulders. The people of Israel had done what Moshe had said, and they had asked the Egyptians to give them silver and gold jewelry and clothing. And Yahweh had made the Egyptians so favorably disposed toward the people that they had let them have whatever they requested. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. The people of Israel traveled from Ramses to Sukkot, some 600,000 men on foot, not counting children. A mixed crowd also went up with them, as well as livestock in large numbers, both flocks and herds. They baked matzah loaves from the dough that they had brought out of Egypt, since it was unleavened, because they had been driven out of Egypt without time to prepare supplies for themselves. The time the people of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, to the day, all the divisions of Yahweh left the land of Egypt. This was a night when Yahweh kept vigil to bring them out of the land of Egypt. And this same night continues to be a night when Yahweh keeps vigil for all the people of Israel through all their generations. Yahweh said to Moshe and Aaron, This is the regulation for the Pesach lamb. No foreigner is to eat it. But if anyone has a slave he bought for money, when you have circumcised him, he may eat it. Neither a traveler nor a hired servant may eat it. It is to be eaten in one house, and you are not to take any of the meat outside the house. You are not to break any of its bones. The whole community of Israel is to keep it. If a foreigner staying with you wants to observe Yahweh's Pesach, all his males must be circumcised. Then he may take part and observe it. He will be like a citizen of the land. But no uncircumcised person is to eat it. The same teaching is to apply equally to the citizen and to the foreigner living among you. All the people of Israel did just as Yahweh had ordered Moshe and Aaron. On that very day, Yahweh brought the people of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their divisions. And then again in chapter 13, we are just reading verses 1 through 16 for the rest of this portion. Yahweh said to Moshe, Set aside for me all the firstborn, whatever is first from the womb, among the people of Israel, both humans and of animals, belongs to me. Moshe said to the people, Remember this day on which you left Egypt, the abode of slavery, because Yahweh by the strength of his hand has brought you out of this place. Do not eat chametz. You are leaving today in the month of Aviv. When Yahweh brings you into the land of the Canaanite, Hittite, Amori, Hivi, and Yevusi, which he swore to your ancestors to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you are to observe this ceremony in this month. For 7 days you are to eat matzah, and on the 7th day is to be a festival for Yahweh. Matzah is to be eaten throughout the 7 days. Neither chametz nor leavening agents are to be seen with you throughout your territory. On that day you are to tell your son, It is because of what Yahweh did for me when I left Egypt. Moreover, it will serve you as a sign on your hand and as a reminder between your eyes, so that Yahweh's Torah may be on your lips. Because with a strong hand Yahweh brought you out of Egypt. Therefore you are to observe this regulation at its proper time year after year. When Yahweh brings you into the land of the Canaanite, as he swore to you and your ancestors, and gives it to you, you are to set apart for Yahweh everything that is first from the womb. Every firstborn male animal will belong to Yahweh. Every firstborn from a donkey you are to redeem with a lamb. But if you choose not to redeem it, you must break its neck. But from people you are to redeem every firstborn son. When at some future time your son asks you, 'What is this?' then say to him, 'With a strong hand Yahweh brought us out of Egypt, out of the abode of slavery. When Pharaoh was unwilling to let us go, Yahweh killed all the firstborn males in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of humans and the firstborn of animals. This is why I sacrifice to Yahweh any male that is first from the womb of an animal. But all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. This will serve as a sign on your hand and at the front of a headband around your forehead that with a strong hand Yahweh brought us out of Egypt.'" And then the second portion that I am reading is continuing the rest of chapter 13, starting with verse 17, and we'll read through chapter 17, verse 16. After Pharaoh had let the people go, God did not guide them to the highway that goes through the land of the Philistine, because it was close by. God thought that the people, upon seeing war, might change their minds and return to Egypt. Rather, God led the people by a roundabout route through the desert by the Sea of Suf. The people of Israel went up from the land of Egypt fully armed. Moshe took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had made the people of Israel swear an oath when he said, "God will certainly remember you, and you are to carry my bones up with you, away from here." They traveled from Sukkot and set up camp in Etam, at the edge of the desert. Yahweh went ahead of them in a column of cloud during the daytime to lead them on their way, and at night in a column of fire to give them light. Thus they could travel both day and by night. Neither the column of cloud by day nor the column of fire at night went away from in front of the people. Chapter 14. Yahweh said to Moshe, "Tell the people of Israel to turn around and set up camp in front of Pi Hakarot, between Migdal and the sea, in front of Baal Zephon. Camp opposite it by the sea. Then Pharaoh will say that the people of Israel are wandering aimlessly in the countryside. The desert has closed in on them. I will make Pharaoh so hard-hearted that he will pursue them. Thus I will win glory for myself at the expense of Pharaoh and all his army. And the Egyptians will realize at last that I am Yahweh." The people did as ordered. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his servants had a change of heart toward the people. They said, "What have we done, letting Israel stop being our slaves?" So he prepared his chariots and took his people with him. He took 600 first-quality chariots, as well as all the other chariots in Egypt, along with their commanders. Yahweh made Pharaoh hard-hearted, and he pursued the people of Israel as they left boldly. The Egyptians went after them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, with his cavalry and army, and overtook them as they were encamped by the sea at Pi-hakarot, in front of Baal Zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and saw the Egyptians right there coming after them. In great fear, the people of Israel cried out to Yahweh and said to Moshe, "Was it because there wasn't enough graves in Egypt that you brought us out to die in the desert? Why have you done this to us, bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we tell you in Egypt to let us alone? We'll just go on being slaves for the Egyptians. It would be better for us to be the Egyptian slaves than to die in the desert." Moshe answered the people, "Stop being so fearful. Remain steady, and you will see how Yahweh is going to save you. He will do it today. Today you have seen the Egyptians, but you will never see them again. Yahweh will do battle for you. Just calm yourselves down." Yahweh asked Moshe, "Why are you crying to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Lift your staff, reach out with your hand over the sea, and divide it in two. The people of Israel will advance into the sea on dry ground. As for me, I will make the Egyptians hard-hearted, and they will march in after them. Thus I will win glory for myself, at the expense of Pharaoh and all his army, chariots, and cavalry. Then the Egyptians will realize that I am Yahweh, when I have won myself glory at the expense of Pharaoh, his chariots, and his cavalry." Next, the angel of God, who was going ahead of the camp of Israel, moved away and went behind them, and the column of cloud moved away from in front of them and stood behind them. It stationed itself between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel. There was cloud and darkness here, but light by night there, so that the one did not come near the other all night long. Moshe reached his hand out over the sea, and Yahweh caused the sea to go back before a strong east wind all night. He made the sea become dry land, and its water was divided in two. Then the people of Israel went into the sea on dry ground, with the water walled up for them on their right and on their left. The Egyptians continued their pursuit, going after them into the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and cavalry. Just before dawn, Yahweh looked out on the Egyptian army through the column of fire and cloud and threw them into a panic. He caused the wheels of their chariots to fall off so that they could move only with difficulty. The Egyptians said, Yahweh is fighting for Israel against the Egyptians. Let's get away from them. Yahweh said to Moshe, reach out your hand over the sea, and the water will return and cover the Egyptians with their chariots and cavalry. Moshe reached out his hand over the sea, and by dawn the sea had returned to its former depth. The Egyptians tried to flee, but Yahweh swept them into the sea. The water came back and covered all the chariots and cavalry of Pharaoh's army who had followed them into the sea. Not even one of them was left. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground in the sea, and with the water walled up for them on their right and on their left. On that day Yahweh saved Israel from the Egyptians. Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the shore. When Israel saw the mighty deed that Yahweh had performed against the Egyptians, the people feared Yahweh, and they believed in Yahweh and in his servant Moshe. Chapter 15. Then Moshe and the people of Israel sang this song to Yahweh. I will sing to Yahweh, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he threw into the sea. Yah is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. This is my God, I will glorify him. My father's God, I will exalt him. Yahweh is a warrior, Yahweh is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he hurled into the sea. His elite commanders were drowned in the sea of Suf. The deep waters covered them, and they sank into the depths like a stone. Your right hand, Yahweh, is sublimely powerful. Your right hand, Yahweh, shatters the foe. By your great majesty, you bring down your enemies. You send out your wrath to consume them like stubble. With a blast from your nostrils, the waters piled up. The waters stood up like a wall. The depths of the sea became firm ground, and the enemy said, I will pursue and overtake, divide the spoil and gorge myself on them. I will draw my sword, my hand will destroy them. You blew with your wind, and the sea covered them, and they sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, Yahweh, among the mighty? Who is like you, sublime in holiness, awesome in praises and working wonders? You reached out with your right hand, the earth swallowed them. In your love you led the people you redeemed. In your strength you guided them to your holy abode. The peoples have heard and they tremble. Anguish takes hold of those living in Peleshet. Then the chiefs of Edom are dismayed. Trepidation seizes the heads of Moab. All those living in Canaan are melted away. Terror and dread fall on them. By the might of your army they are still as stone, until your people pass over, Yahweh, till the people you purchased pass over. You will bring them in and plant them on the mountain which is your heritage, the place, Yahweh, that you made your abode, the sanctuary, Yahweh, which your hands established. Yahweh will reign forever and ever. For the horses of Pharaoh went with his chariots and with his cavalry into the sea. But Yahweh brought the sea waters back upon them, while the people of Israel walked on dry land in the midst of the sea. Also Miriam, the prophet, sister of Aaron, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines dancing, as Miriam sang to them, Sing to Yahweh, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he threw into the sea. Moshe led Israel onward from the sea of Suf, and they went out into the Shur desert. But after traveling 3 days in the desert, they had found no water. They arrived at Marah, but couldn't drink the water there because it was bitter. This is why it is called Marah, bitterness. The people grumbled against Moshe and asked, What are we to drink? Moshe cried to Yahweh, and Yahweh showed him a certain piece of wood, which, when he threw it into the water, made the water taste good. There Yahweh made laws and rules of life for them, and there he tested them. He said, If you will listen intently to the voice of Yahweh your God, do what he considers right, pay attention to his mitzvot, and observe his laws, I will not afflict you with any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, because I am Yahweh your healer. They came to Elam, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and camped there by the water. Chapter 16. They traveled on from Elim, and the whole community of the people of Israel arrived at the Sin desert between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after leaving the land of Egypt. There in the desert, the whole community of the people of Israel grumbled against Moshe and Aaron. The people of Israel said to them, We wish Yahweh had used his own hand to kill us off in Egypt. There we used to sit around the pots with meat boiling, and we had as much food as we wanted. But you have taken us out into this desert to let the whole assembly starve to death. Yahweh said to Moshe, Here, I will cause bread to rain down from heaven for you, and the people are to go out and gather a day's ration every day. By this I will test whether they will observe my Torah or not. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they have brought in, it will turn out to be twice as much as they gather on the other days. Moshe and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, "This evening you will realize that it has been Yahweh who brought you out of Egypt, and in the morning you will see Yahweh's glory. For he has listened to your grumblings against Yahweh. What are we that you should grumble against us?" Moshe added, "What I have said will happen when Yahweh gives you meat to eat this evening, and your fill of bread tomorrow morning. Yahweh has listened to your complaints and grumblings against him. What are we? Your grumblings are not against us, but against Yahweh." Moshe said to Aaron, "Say to the whole community of Israel, 'Come close into the presence of Yahweh, for he has heard your grumblings.'" As Aaron spoke to the whole community of the people of Israel, they looked toward the desert, and there before them the glory of Yahweh appeared in the cloud. And Yahweh said to Moshe, "I have heard the grumblings of the people of Israel. Say to them, at dusk you will be eating meat, and in the morning you will have your fill of bread. Then you will realize that I am Yahweh your God." That evening quails came up and covered the camp, while in the morning there was a layer of dew all around the camp. When the dew had evaporated, there on the surface of the desert was a fine flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the people of Israel saw it, they asked each other, "Manu? What is it?" Because they didn't know what it was. Moshe answered them, "It is the bread which Yahweh has given you to eat. Here is what Yahweh has ordered. Each man is to gather according to his appetite. Each is to take an omer, 2 quarts, per person, for everyone in his tent." The people of Israel did this. Some gathered more, some less, but when they put it in an omer measure, whoever had gathered much had no excess, and whoever had gathered little had no shortage. Nevertheless, each person had gathered according to his appetite. Moshe told them no one is to leave any of it until morning. But they didn't pay attention to Moshe, and some kept the leftovers until morning. It bred worms and rotted, which made Moshe angry at them. So they gathered it morning after morning, each person according to his appetite. But as the sun grew hot, it melted. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers per person, and all the community leaders came and reported to Moshe. He told them, "This is what Yahweh has said. Tomorrow is a holy Shabbat for Yahweh. Bake what you want to bake, boil what you want to boil, and whatever is left over, set aside and keep for the morning." They set it aside till morning as Moshe had ordered, and it didn't rot or have worms. Moshe said, "Today eat that, because today is a Shabbat for Yahweh. Today you won't find it in the field. Gather it 6 days, but the 7th day is the Shabbat. On that day there won't be any." However, on the 7th day some of the people went out to gather and found none. Yahweh said to Moshe, "How long will you refuse to observe my mitzvah and teachings? Look, Yahweh has given you the Shabbat. This is why he is providing bread for 2 days on the 6th day. Each of you stay where you are. No one is to leave his place on the 7th day." So the people rested on the 7th day. The people called the food manna. It was like coriander seed, white, and it tasted like honey cakes. Moshe said, "Here is what Yahweh has ordered. Let 2 quarts of manna be kept through all your generations, so that they will be able to see the bread, which I fed you in the desert when I brought you out of Egypt." Moshe said to Aaron, "Put in it 2 quarts of manna, and set it aside for Yahweh to be kept through all your generations, just as Yahweh ordered Moshe." Aaron set it aside for the testimony to be kept. The people of Israel ate manna for 40 years, until they came to an inhabited land. They ate manna until they arrived at the borders of the land of Canaan. An omer is 1/10 of an ephah, which is a bushel dry measure. And finally, chapter 17. The whole community of the people of Israel left the Sin desert, traveling in stages as Yahweh had ordered, and camped at Rephidim. But there was no water for the people to drink. The people quarreled with Moshe, demanding, "Give us water to drink." But Moshe replied, "Why pick a fight with me? Why are you testing Yahweh?" However, the people were thirsty for water there and grumbled against Moshe. "For what did you bring us up from Egypt? To kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst?" Moshe cried out to Yahweh, "What am I to do with these people? They're ready to stone me." Yahweh answered Moshe, "Go on ahead of the people and bring with you the leaders of Israel. Take your staff in your hand, the one you used to strike the river, and go. I will stand in front of you there on the rock in Horeb. You are to strike the rock, and water will come out of it, so the people can drink." Moshe did this in the sight of the leaders of Israel, and the place was named Massah, which is testing, and Merivah, quarreling, because of the quarreling of the people of Israel, and because they tested Yahweh by asking, "Is Yahweh with us or not?" Then Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim. Moshe said to Joshua, "Choose men for us, go out and fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with God's staff in my hand." And Joshua did as Moshe had told him and fought with Amalek. Then Moshe, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. When Moshe raised his hand, Israel prevailed, but when he let it down, Amalek prevailed. However, Moshe's hands grew heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on the one side and the other on the other, so that his hands stayed steady until sunset. Thus Joshua defeated Amalek, putting their people to the sword. Yahweh said to Moshe, "Write this in a book to be remembered, and tell it to Joshua. I will completely blot out any memory of Amalek from under heaven." Moshe built an altar, called it Yahweh Nisi. Yahweh is my banner, my miracle. And said, "Because their hand was against the throne of Yahweh will fight Amalek generation after generation." All right. That is the double portion reading for this week to make up for not being able to do a regular video last week. And with that, may the Father bless you and keep you. May He make His face shine upon you and give you peace. In the name of the Prince of all Peace, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. God bless, and I'll talk to y'all next time.